My name is Aisha Fukushima, and I'm living in San Francisco by way of Seattle. I'm an educator and a raptivist, or rap activist. Yeah.
So, in the workshop so far, are there some things that have really kind of stood out for you, kind of stuck, or that you might apply to your work?
I think a lot of it is the process, seeing how people are interacting and the kind of compassion and care that goes into the interactions between people is something that's very meaningful in a very tangible, real way. It's palpable in the room. On another level, I think the fact that there are so many different interests, from ecological interests to interests in hip hop to global citizenship, to how to form and constantly foster a more creative and nurturing dialogue from Sitka to the world, that's really inspiring. And the fact that we all kind of have what we call in hip hop a cipher, or a circle with which to share those stories and then push beyond, kind of challenge each other and our norms and our status quo that we have mentally. So that critical lens that we're sharing is definitely inspirational. Yeah.
So you're glad you came?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I've been in Sitka for almost a week now, and it's gorgeous in terms of the natural beauty, but I think also the sense of community that I feel here just immediately is unfathomable. It's incredible, because I think there's definitely a pulse and such a love and a sense of responsibility that is very, very evident from the get-go. And so experiencing that is invaluable. Yeah, definitely.
So you see this kind of gathering as a useful step on the way to solutions to the problems we face.
Yes. I think part of it is the experience. I'm sure there will be concrete things that that people will take away and then possibly birth projects from, or create groups, action groups around. But I also think that the process of the roundtable in and of itself, and the way that it's offering people a space to experiment with ideas, builds a sort of confidence in each other as change makers, and also maybe a humbleness through kind of checking each other in our comments and our ideas, and having a place to hash out and be messy and to play, kind of cultivating the imagination that gives us tools then to be more resourceful and meaningful leaders in a broader community, whether that's with raptivism globally, or that's with a school in Sitka, or that's somewhere else in Massachusetts, who knows. Definitely, I think that's a huge part of it. Yeah. I also appreciate yesterday Molly, when she was doing her storytelling, she acknowledged the First Nation ancestors and elders, and a certain kind of reverence and credence that it's been given, and like a thankful attitude of gratitude, as Maya Angelou says. I think that's a really significant thing, and being aware of the voices and the people who are not in the room, to be able to cultivate a space for that and an awareness of that, to me is really meaningful. And it might sound, in some ways it might seem intangible, or like a lot of people are like, well, those are just ideas, or that's just a creative space that you're imagining. But it's important, because that often doesn't happen. We often don't bring that topic to the table, so it's easy to kind of underestimate the power of that. But I think it's very significant, and to me it's like a book or music. Sometimes we underestimate the power of creative arts, films, but then if they're so kind of wishy-washy or whatever for people, then why do they ban them? Why is there this resistance that it knows that it might awaken something in people? And I think through our creative imagination in this roundtable cipher about resilience, it's a powerful thing. It fosters a type of creativity that sometimes is discouraged in other spaces. So I think that's a really invaluable part of being here. Yeah, definitely.
Do you know where that term cipher came from?
Cipher is actually, it comes from the Arabic word, and it means zero, but also cipher, so zero is a circle.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this 360-degree angle type of perspective, and that everyone is part of the cipher. Hip hop, a big part of hip hop is participation. And it's not just hip hop, ciphers and circles. We can see that in all different kinds of cultures and storytelling and sharing and interactive arts based activities. So yeah, the cipher is universal in more ways than one, but it does come from the Arabic term cipher. Actually, one of my favorite artists, Erykah Badu, she's like, and on and on, my cipher keeps moving like a rolling stone. So she's singing about that cipher, and it's like no matter what happens, she keeps rolling, like that resilient cipher, it keeps rolling. What'd she say? I was born underwater with $3.06. Yeah, you may laugh, 'cause you did not do your math. I think I need a cup of tea, and the world keeps turning. Oh, what a day, what a day, what a day. So she's saying, I was born underwater with $3.06. So you may think I'm broke, but that's because you didn't do your math. 360 degrees, I am whole, I am not broke. This is all about the cipher. I think this kind of fosters like a type of knowledge. And, I think it speaks to like how deep some of these traditions can be and the water that flows through it. And that can relate to so many different people in different ways. Like even as, I'm not a spokesperson for multiracial people, but having all these intersectionalities of my identity, whether that be race or whatever, socioeconomics, cultural capital, all these intersections, sometimes like what part are you? What races are you? What half are you? Or there's all this language that tells us that we're only part of people and that dehumanizes us. And in turn, it's like institutional ways of breaking down our resilience. And in reality, we're all part of the cipher and we're all whole in one way or another, even if we only have $3.06, right? We're definitely 360. Yeah, I don't know.
And that sounds like resilience.
We have no other choice. It's funny. It's kind of funny to be here in some ways because I have these moments where I think I'm reflecting on a lot of the talk about failure and needing to fall down. And there was on the scavenger hunt sheet, there was this list that said, or one of the things said, like, fall down and just don't get up. And I don't know how, like, I think there's definitely a humor to it and I can appreciate it. But my people have been not only fallen down, chopped down, had their legs cut. I mean, like, we've gone through all sorts of systemic violence, our people in many ways, and we've fallen down and we had no choice but to get up. We have to get up. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here today. Resilience is not a topic or like how it's like we are resilient. There is no option. The urgency is now, the fierce urgency of now. There's no other option. So I'm already being resilient, but how do we be more effective in that? How do we get beyond survival resilience and to a resilience that's thriving? To me, those are like the crucial questions. Because many communities and people don't have the option.
But the thing that the release did that, she showed it to me, and I had the exact same reaction. She was pushing our buttons.
Yeah.
To go, who has the opportunity? I mean, who isn't? What does that mean?
Yeah.
What does it mean to not get up, or is that really historically? And I mean, it doesn't. It does. Yeah. Yeah. But we don't talk about that.
Yeah. And it's definitely not on the record. It's not meant to be like a punch or a stab at anyone. I'm just saying, I guess I bring that to light because there has, like, even from the storytelling last night and whatnot, there's this talk of failure, but also kind of a need. I've seen so many people who are surviving, and I've lived through it in my own way. And I think it's important for me on a personal level to vocalize that too, that it's like, it's not just surviving, it's thriving. And being resilient is not an option, it's a way of life. And how do we help each other towards that? But I definitely hear that challenge. I like that challenge, but I think it's easy sometimes when we have the luxury of time or a luxury of space or a feeling of kind of, we're so comfortable and cozy to forget that urgency. And so I guess I impress that upon people because I think that's part of what we're trying to do here today.
Right, and also getting up from failure is actually, or failure, I don't know, so there's a hopefulness. right? I mean, it comes, something's growing out of the pain and everything that's bad, right?
Yeah, definitely. Somebody, I'm good friends with one of the guys who works at the farmer's market in San Francisco. And whenever we see each other, he tells me stories and we exchange stories. And he said I look a lot like his daughter. So it's fun because then he's like, oh, you keep scaring me. You look like my daughter. Oh my gosh. I keep turning around thinking that she's just somehow arrived in California. But he told me, I've been homeless, but not hopeless. I was homeless, but never hopeless. And that's like so crucial because I think that sometimes we have this idea that like being poor means the end of the world, or like, not having X and X thing, or not having, I don't know, there's this kind of like idea of like fatality or some kind of like end doom of the world, which that comes with struggle, the idea of struggle. But a lot of people also find the most creativity in those moments of struggle, and the most hope, and like some of the most strength and awe-inspiring moments I've had, the miracle moments have come from the lifeblood of communities and sharing in that cipher that pushes beyond materially what we're supposed to, beyond the status quo. Yeah, so
there's a lot of boundaries that come up around us, age and race and worldview and economic class and all these things. One thing that comes to mind is that hip hop has urban roots, and here we are in a very non-urban, very rural setting, and there's a boundary there, I think.
But can I interrupt for 1 minute? I've worked in villages a lot, and in villages, hip hop is really, really, and rap are really, really big. And I did a project with kids at the. There's a school for kids that can come from all over the state and try to get working with local kids, and they really fought over music. So actually, hip hop and rap are very big in villages. So anyway, I'm going to interrupt you, but go ahead.
Okay, she's the interviewee.
I know. No, but I wanted to talk
That's
about
all right.
that.
That's all right.
No, but why do
Well,
you think that
maybe
even
I
is? Like,
yeah.
that it transfers,
So maybe,
that's a really big question to talk about.
maybe
I don't
this
want to
is-
answer that question. Like,
well, the
why is
universality
hip hop?
of it all.
Well, maybe this is that music has the ability to stand this urban-rural divide, which is pretty distinct in this country, and falls out along political lines, and maybe music and maybe hip hop is the way we transcend that, particularly among the young who are so engaged in music often.
Transcend the urban-rural lines. I think music is a form of storytelling, and I think that storytelling allows, almost regardless of who it comes from or where it's coming from, when we hear other people's stories, sometimes it gears us to better understand our own stories, especially if we're listening. We're really listening. And so in that way, I think that by being able to identify with each other, and not only that, I remember going to a lecture once, and this author made an argument that some of the first novels were the basis of human rights. And this idea, this concept that human rights could exist, that everyone had some sort of rights. Who was included in human rights is another debate. But that novels, storytelling created a basis of empathy and compassion for which we could understand and create a sense of social responsibility to each other, and also want the well-being of one another, that cohabitation, that awareness. And so I think arts, music, storytelling, hip-hop, to me is so crucial because in terms of global cultures, it unites us not only through rural and urban settings, but throughout the world. It has a certain resonance, and I think it resonates with different components of different culture. Part of it is that it's a mosaic. Hip-hop is about sampling. It's about grabbing inspirations from different places. It's about finding your own voice, so it can adapt and change and is kind of elastic and resilient in and of itself in various communities. Not only resilient, but it can take on a whole new meaning. And it's very much about speaking your truth. and speaking truths to power. And I think that's something that can resonate with most all societies. And I think that's part of what's so powerful in it. It gives us a nugget through which to understand, relate, and play. Have imagination, create spaces where we are creating regardless of the destruction that we are surrounded by, where we have opportunities to be, even if they're forces or people that are trying to eliminate us or our feelings or emotions. So I think it's definitely a place that can also be really synergetic for communities. And people are hungering for that in a society where consuming to an end that does not necessarily fulfill us. We can consume and take in a lot of stuff, but we're not really satisfied at the end of the day. We need something that speaks to our souls. And I think that's where art comes in. Very much so. Yeah.
So hip hop is polyrhythmic, right?
It can be.
It can be. Or
It
it
can be.
accommodates different drums and they mix together and make something beautiful.
It is what you make of it. One of my friends in Denmark, Pave, he said, Aisha, hip hop is a beast that goes in everywhere and nowhere at once. It goes in all directions, he said. And so it is what you make of it in that sense. It takes on the meaning and the sounds. Like I've seen rappers, one of the first rappers in Senegal, Didier Awadi, and when he performs on stage, he has people who are playing the talking drum, like on the hip hop beats. But a hip hop beat is basically just the basic 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the same. It's like what people would call a Western beat, right? But you can add and change and develop it as you'd like, So it's what flavor you add to it that gives it its meaning. Yeah.
So you've tossed out some burning questions already. If you had one burning question you were going to offer, you did that exercise yesterday. Is there one?
Oh man, I think I think part of the urgency question is definitely part of it. I think maybe another question that came up today was actually about belonging and how to create a sense of belonging, not only within like-minded groups or groupthink situations, but across, so to speak, different boundaries that we might have set up or assumptions that we have set up. Never underestimate the power of underestimating. Bring to the table something that is really innovative and also fosters those not only conversations but a basis for collective action, for solidarity, for meaningful interaction and civic engagement. How do we build those things? But in a way that cultivates that urgency and a sense of belonging, so that it's not just one person's responsibility, but we all have a stake in it. It's a collective responsibility. I think that's an important question.